nation.
Burkina Faso shocked the world last night. After 4 silent years, a $300 million stadium, bigger, brighter, and far more advanced than anyone expected, lit up Ouagadougou. Crowds roared, legends stood in awe, and for a moment, it seemed as though an entire nation had been reborn. But how did this happen? Why now? And what does it mean for a country that's been fighting just to stand tall? Let's find out.
What if I told you that the most advanced sports stadium in Africa is not in South Africa, not in Morocco, not in Nigeria, but in Burkina Faso? Yes, Burkina Faso, a country that many outside the continent still wrongly associate only with poverty, instability, and coups. But today, the world is turning its head toward Ouagadougou for a very different reason. The unveiling of the Ibrahim Traoré Stadium, a structure so massive, so technologically advanced, and so symbolic that it's already rewriting the narrative of an entire nation. This is not just a sports arena, it's a declaration, a message carved in steel, glass, and concrete saying, Burkina Faso will not be underestimated. From the outside, the stadium's sweeping curves and bold modern facade immediately catch your eye. Its roof, a solar-paneled marvel, not only shields spectators from the Sahel sun, but powers most of the facility's internal operations. The design itself blends African cultural patterns with ultra-modern engineering, creating a structure that feels both rooted in tradition and ready for the future. And inside, a seating capacity that rivals some of Europe's premier arenas, but with a distinctly African soul. But why does this matter so much? Because for Burkina Faso, building this stadium wasn't just about football or athletics. It was about showing the world, and their own people, that they are capable of grand visions and flawless execution without bowing to foreign dictates. President Ibrahim Traoré, the young leader who has been reshaping the country's identity since taking power, pushed for this project not only as a sports investment, but as a statement of self-reliance. At a time when the nation was distancing itself from ECOWAS and rethinking its foreign partnerships, the stadium became a metaphor for sovereignty. A massive, tangible proof that Burkina Faso can build world-class infrastructure without being a client state to outside powers. And here's the kicker. The financing didn't come from crippling foreign loans. Instead, a combination of redirected national revenue, strategic mineral export deals, and partnerships with non-traditional allies fueled the construction. In a continent where mega-projects often mean debt traps, this is a rare example of a nation saying, "We will build it, but we will own it." Of course, the symbolism runs even deeper. The Ibrahim Traoré Stadium is being hailed as a people's stadium. It was built with local labor, giving thousands of Burkinabe jobs during construction. The materials, over 65% sourced from within Africa, much of it from Burkina Faso's own emerging industries. And when the opening ceremony finally lit up the night sky, it wasn't just fireworks that drew cheers. It was the sight of thousands of ordinary citizens stepping onto the same ground that will soon host international sporting events. For many here, this is more than a place to watch football. It's where children will see heroes take shape. It's where African music festivals will be broadcast across the globe. It's where the nation will gather not just for entertainment, but for moments of unity, resilience, and pride. The timing of its opening could not be more politically loaded. Coming in the wake of Burkina Faso's withdrawal from ECOWAS and its increasingly public rejection of certain Western aid models, the stadium has been framed domestically as a victory over the narrative that Africa must wait for permission to dream big. And for Traoré's administration, it's a visual, physical reminder of what can be done when national resources are used for national progress. But there's another layer, a geopolitical one. The Ibrahim Traoré Stadium is already attracting interest from international sports federations and event organizers. Hosting rights mean tourism. Tourism means revenue, and revenue means leverage, the kind of economic bargaining power that small nations rarely enjoy. It's not an exaggeration to say that this stadium could change Burkina Faso's position in the region's economic map. Still, critics argue that building such a massive venue in a country facing security challenges and economic pressures is a gamble. Was this the right time to build? Could the funds have gone toward defense or healthcare instead? The government's answer has been blunt. A nation needs both bread and hope, and this is hope you can walk into. From the perspective of ordinary Burkinabe, walking into this stadium is like stepping into another world. one where the nation's potential is not theoretical, but standing right there in steel and stone. And so, the question isn't just what will be played here, but what will be decided here. Because the Ibrahim Traoré Stadium isn't just a sports complex, it's a political stage, an economic tool, and a cultural landmark rolled into one. In Part 2, we'll dive deeper into the cutting-edge technology that makes this the most advanced stadium in Africa, the jaw-dropping features that rival the world's best, and how these innovations were sourced and implemented in a country many thought couldn't pull it off. But before we continue, tell me in the comments, do you see this as a wise national investment or a bold political gamble? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth stories from Africa's transformation. Step inside the Ibrahim Traoré Stadium and the first thing that hits you isn't just the scale, it's the feeling. That sense you're standing somewhere important, somewhere built with intention, somewhere that tells you Burkina Faso is not playing small anymore. From the moment your eyes adjust to the sweeping interior, you realize this isn't just another concrete bowl for football matches. This is a 21st century sports and events powerhouse, on par with, and in some ways ahead of, the best stadiums in Europe or Asia. Let's start with the crown jewel, the solar-powered roof. The entire top of the stadium is covered in high-efficiency photovoltaic panels, capable of generating enough electricity to power not just the arena, but surrounding community facilities on non-event days. In a region where energy shortages are a fact of life, this isn't just an eco-friendly bragging right, it's a strategic asset. The government has already announced that excess power from the stadium will be fed into Ouagadougou's grid, lowering strain during peak hours. Next, the seating experience. The stadium holds over 70,000 spectators, making it one of the largest in Africa. But comfort hasn't been sacrificed for capacity. Every seat is ergonomically designed, with optimal sight lines and shade coverage for most of the day. The aisles are wider than FIFA's minimum requirements, ensuring that crowd flow during entry and exit is smooth, safe, and fast. And in a move rarely seen in African stadiums, 35% of the seats are equipped with QR code ticket scanning built directly into the armrests, a small touch that signals the leap into a cashless, digitally managed event experience. Beneath the stands lies the heartbeat of the stadium, a subterranean network of climate-controlled locker rooms, hydrotherapy pools, sports science labs, and a fully equipped athlete recovery center. This is where the national team will train alongside visiting clubs and international athletes. And it's not just for football. The facility is adaptable for athletics, rugby, concerts, and even political summits. The pitch itself is a hybrid grass system, natural grass reinforced with synthetic fibers for durability. Advanced underground irrigation and drainage mean that even after a torrential Sahel rainstorm, the field can be playable within 20 minutes. It's the same turf technology used in stadiums that hosted the FIFA World Cup, but here it's been modified to handle Burkina Faso's unique climate conditions. Then there's the technology integration. This is where the stadium truly outshines many of its African counterparts. 360-degree LED ribbon boards circle the interior, allowing dynamic visuals, sponsor displays, and real-time game statistics. 5G connectivity blankets the venue, making live streaming, mobile payments, and augmented reality fan experiences seamless. The stadium app gives attendees the ability to order refreshments from their seats, navigate to the nearest restrooms, or replay key moments from multiple camera angles on their phone. And yet, the Ibrahim Traoré Stadium doesn't look like it was cloned from a European design blueprint. Its architecture is unapologetically African. The outer facade features intricate latticework inspired by mossy tribal patterns, casting beautiful shifting shadows across the plaza during the day. At night, programmable LED lighting transforms the stadium into a glowing beacon visible for miles, with colors changing to match national holidays, sports victories, or cultural celebrations. The construction itself was a remarkable feat. Local engineers worked alongside specialists from across Africa, Asia, and Eastern Europe, with the goal of ensuring skills transfer, meaning the knowledge stays in Burkina Faso for future projects. Over 8,000 jobs were created during the building phase, from steel workers and electricians to architects and landscape designers. And unlike so many African mega projects that end up over budget and behind schedule, this one was completed 3 weeks ahead of time. But here's the deeper layer. This stadium isn't just a place to host games, it's a strategic revenue engine. The plan is to attract continental tournaments, international friendlies, and music festivals that currently bypass Burkina Faso for bigger markets. Already negotiations are underway to bring an African Cup of Nations group stage here, along with international track and field meets. Beyond sports, the stadium's conference facilities, VIP lounges, and media centers are designed to host summits and trade expos, turning it into a year-round economic driver. This ties directly into Burkina Faso's broader political and economic shift. By distancing itself from ECOWAS and seeking more control over its natural resources, the Traore administration has been criticized by some as isolating the country. But the stadium is part of a counter-narrative, proof that Burkina Faso can still connect with the world on its own terms. Instead of waiting for invitations, they're building a venue so impressive that the world will have no choice but to come to them. There's also the cultural dimension. Sports, especially football, are unifying forces in Africa. In a country that has faced years of internal challenges, from insurgencies to economic hardship, the Ibrahim Traoré Stadium could become a rare space where divisions fade, replaced by shared pride. It's the kind of place where a child from the rural north and a business executive from Ouagadougou can stand side by side, cheering for the same team, feeling part of the same story. Of course, challenges remain. Hosting large-scale events in a region with ongoing security concerns requires robust planning. The government has responded by integrating advanced surveillance systems into the stadium's infrastructure, including AI-assisted crowd monitoring and rapid response protocols. While this may sound heavy-handed to some, for many here it's a reassurance that the venue, and the people in it, will be protected. In short, the Ibrahim Traoré Stadium is a blend of ambition and pragmatism. It's beautiful but functional, advanced yet culturally grounded. It reflects a Burkina Faso that is learning to project confidence not just in speeches but in concrete achievements. And in Part 3, we'll explore the political and economic ripple effects, how this stadium fits into Traoré's long-term vision for Burkina Faso, the secret trade partnerships that helped make it possible, and the message it sends to both friends and rivals on the continent. Every brick, every steel beam of the Ibrahim Traoré Stadium carries a story, not just of engineering, but of political intent. This is not just a sports arena. It's a calculated statement in concrete and glass. Burkina Faso will decide its own future, and the world will adjust. When President Ibrahim Traoré announced the project, skeptics were quick to pounce. Burkina Faso, after all, was in the middle of a geopolitical storm. The country had recently withdrawn from ECOWAS alongside Mali and Niger, severing itself from an economic bloc that had been both a trading partner and a political overseer. Western aid flows were shrinking, and traditional investment channels were tightening. Building a massive, state-of-the-art stadium at such a time looked, to many outsiders, like an impossible gamble, but Traoré's administration saw it differently. In their eyes, this was the perfect moment, not to retreat into survival mode, but to project confidence. If Burkina Faso wanted to break free from the narrative of dependency, it needed a landmark that embodied the idea of standing tall. The stadium became that landmark. The funding model is perhaps the most politically significant part of the story. Unlike many African megaprojects, this one did not come from IMF loans or Western development agencies with strings attached. Instead, it was financed through a triad of alternative economic strategies, reinvestment of resource revenues, gold and manganese exports, previously managed under foreign-dominated contracts, were renegotiated to keep a larger share of profits inside the country. Partnerships with non-traditional allies, nations in Asia, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East provided technical expertise and select materials, but under agreements that left full ownership in Burkinabe hands. Local bonds and community investment schemes, citizens could buy into stadium bonds, making them partial stakeholders in its revenue. This wasn't just about raising money, it was about creating a sense of ownership that runs deeper than government propaganda. In political terms, this financing model was a quiet revolution in itself. It sidestepped the dependency trap, avoided the debt spiral, and demonstrated that infrastructure could be built with Africa's own capital and Africa's own priorities. But make no mistake, the stadium's significance is not limited to domestic audiences. On the international stage, it's a subtle but unmistakable challenge to the regional order. ECOWAS, still reeling from the departure of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, has tried to frame these countries as unstable and economically isolated. Yet here stands a billion-dollar grade stadium, ahead of schedule, debt-free, and technologically cutting edge. It's a visual rebuttal to the idea that leaving the bloc equals collapse. This, of course, hasn't gone unnoticed by neighboring governments. There are already quiet conversations in certain African capitals about whether similar projects could boost national pride and signal independence. For Traore, this is exactly the point. The stadium is not just for Burkina Faso, it's a case study for what self-directed development looks like. Behind closed doors, the stadium also served as a bargaining chip in new trade negotiations. Hosting rights for international tournaments mean more than tourism. They mean leverage. Countries and corporations wanting access to the event contracts, sponsorship deals, and broadcast rights will now have to engage with Burkina Faso on terms the government dictates. In effect, the stadium has become both a cultural center and a soft power weapon. There's also an internal political calculus. Traore, still a relatively young leader, knows that infrastructure projects have a way of cementing legacies. Across Africa, stadiums have become lasting symbols of leadership, from Nelson Mandela's namesake venue in South Africa to Houphouët-Boigny Stadium in Côte d'Ivoire. By attaching his name to the largest and most advanced stadium in Africa, Traore isn't just building for sport, he's etching his administration into the nation's architectural memory. Of course, this comes with risks. Critics point out that in some countries, stadiums have become expensive burdens, draining maintenance budgets while failing to generate promised economic returns. The government insists this will not be the case here, pointing to a diversified usage plan, international football and athletics events, year-round concerts and cultural festivals, trade expos and technology fairs, political and diplomatic summits. If even half of these materialize, the stadium will become a steady revenue source rather than a liability. And yet, perhaps the most important ripple effect is psychological. In a country emerging from years of insecurity and political upheaval, the Ibrahim Traoré Stadium offers a vision of stability, a reminder that Burkina Faso is capable of building something not only functional, but world-class. For a generation of young Burkinabe, this is more than a sports facility. It's proof that their nation can compete with the best. In Part 4, we'll pull back even further, exploring how this stadium might reshape Burkina Faso's image globally, the opportunities and threats that lie ahead, and why some analysts believe it could become the most politically significant building in West Africa over the next decade. For many Burkinabe citizens, the Ibrahim Traoré Stadium is more than infrastructure. It's a physical embodiment of their country's recent political transformation. It opened at a time when Burkina Faso was asserting sovereignty over its resources, rethinking its alliances, and rejecting certain forms of foreign control. The fact that it was financed without falling into debt traps using renegotiated mineral export revenues, partnerships with non-traditional allies, and citizen investment bonds has made it a point of national pride.
On August 4, 2025, Burkina Faso officially reopened its largest national stadium, the Stade du Fort 8 in Ouagadougou, marking the end of a 4-year FIFA-imposed suspension. The reopening, led by President Ibrahim Traoré, was more than just a sporting event. It was a powerful statement of national sovereignty, resilience, and youth empowerment.
Stadium thrives if it remains active, well-maintained, and profitable. It could stand for decades as a reminder of a moment when Burkina Faso not only dreamed big, but delivered. But legacy is fragile. If the venue falls into disrepair, or if it becomes an underused white elephant, it could just as easily become a cautionary tale about misplaced priorities. That's why the coming years will be critical, not just for the stadium itself, but for the image of the administration that built it, more than a building. At its heart, the Ibrahim Traoré Stadium is about possibility. It's about a young child sitting in the stands watching their national team lift a trophy and realizing their country is capable of world-class achievement. It's about a Burkinabe entrepreneur meeting a foreign investor at a trade fair held here and landing a deal that changes their business forever. It's about the thousands of workers who built it and the sense of ownership they now carry. If managed well, this stadium will be more than the most advanced in Africa. It will be a living monument to self-reliance, unity, and vision, a place where sport, culture, and diplomacy intersect, and where Burkina Faso's story is told in a language the whole world understands. The spotlight is now on Ouagadougou. The stage is set. The world is watching. What's your take? Is this a masterstroke of national pride or a high-stakes gamble at a delicate time? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into Africa's transformation.